Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of The Swarm, a BW football podcast. I'm your host, Matt Florjancic, and for the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking all things Yellow Jacket football. We'll catch up with linebacker Devonte Jackson. We'll also check in again for the second time with wide receiver Vinny Lomeo, and then we'll hear from the head man himself, head coach Jim Hilvert. Then we'll take a look at the weekend ahead for all of the Yellow Jacket athletic programs. But right now, let's get into it with wide receiver Vinny Lomeo. I'm now joined by star wide receiver for the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jackets, Vinny Lomeo. This is Vinny's second appearance here on The Swarm. Vinny, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, Vinny, Yellow Jackets coming off of two back-to-back losses, tough losses on the road at that team in University Heights and then down in Marietta. What's the mood of this team right now?
Yeah, we're two tough games, like you said, two tough OAC teams, but we try to bounce back this week, 3 weeks ahead, three OAC good teams also, so starts this week with at home against Muskingum.
How nice is it to be back at home after 2 weeks on the road?
It's been a while since we played back home, it feels like, since we're just traveling all the time, especially going to Marietta is not always a fun trip to go to. So getting back here in front of our home fans and not have to go on the bus means a lot to us as players.
BW's been traditionally known as one of the better attended schools in terms of their football crowds year in and year out. This season it has not disappointed as anything. It's been even better than what we've expected or come to expect in recent years. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, what does playing at home do for you from your just mentality and just being at home with the creature comforts, if you will, not having to get on that bus and being at your own locker and sleeping in your own bed the night before?
Yeah, no, for sure. You haven't had sleep the night before if we're sleeping over somewhere, just different routine. But, yeah, same routine, always getting a good night's sleep. But also during the game, seeing the student section going crazy and the fans, family and friends in the stands going crazy too. We just feed off of it. The energy is just different. It's just a domino effect at that point. So, yeah, we just feed off of it. It's great.
This year, it seems more than in years past, there's really been an emphasis to bring alumni back, have the tailgating in the end zone. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, when you see alumni, former Yellow Jackets come back, or former Yellow Jacket athletes, I guess you're never really not a Yellow Jacket, but from an athletic standpoint, the previous generations of Yellow Jackets coming back, supporting you and wanting to see you do well, coming in for guest speeches. I mean, just how much does that really put an added emphasis on how important this program is to people?
It means a lot to us. I know before the season started, we had a lot of alum come in and talk to the team and just talk about their experience here, and it just means that much more to us to get educated on the rivalries, the good times, the bad times, and just the rich tradition that we have here at BW. It just inspires us and motivates us to just keep building on that week in and week out.
You're a current student athlete, but Coach mentioned that many of the same traits that you see from alumni, he also sees from guys like you and Devonte Jackson. I mean, what is your message to the team after those two tough losses?
Ball didn't bounce our way. Move on to next week. I know they're tough to swallow, but we can learn a lot from them going forward. Season's not over yet. 3 tough games ahead of us, again, starting at Muskingum.
Looking at what you've been able to do individually, really, what's this season been like for you? It's a crowded wide receiver room, but at points, each young man, whether it be Oliver Kelleher, yourself, Tim Conwell, Connor Awad, you've all stood out for good reasons in different games. I mean, just what's it like being in that room with the competitive nature that you have?
It's awesome. I love those guys. It's kind of a cool dynamic right now because we're all good. We're all good players, and we all just kind of feed off of each other. It's just not just one guy. So it might be me one day, it might be Timmy one day, it might be Oliver, Awad, whoever, Kel. Just whoever's day it is, just keep playing within the offense, within yourself, and the ball will find you.
Does that make it easier to approach the game from your perspective, or does that make it more like, do you put more pressure on yourself because I know I'm going to have limited reps and I need to show up?
No, I don't think it's any more pressure. I think it's just we love it. We love playing off each other. Again, we feel no pressure with everyone out there at the same time. It's not just one person, like I said, and we have all the confidence in the world in our offensive line and our quarterback, Charlie, to get us the ball.
Last week was not a good week in terms of results with the lopsided loss to Marietta, but there was a bright spot in terms of later in the game, you had a running back go in and really take care of business. That starts to show that the depth is kicking in again, and this program has athletes that can play, whether it's the first guy up in the starting lineup or the last guy on the bench that maybe doesn't get a ton of reps. I mean, the messages are starting to seep through that, hey, you make the most of the opportunities you're given. And from your perspective, I mean, you've been one of those guys that's had to work his way up. And what's it like to see the other side now where the younger guys are starting to contribute like they are?
Yeah, it's super cool to see the young guys step up and play. Obviously not in that fashion, but when they get in the game, they play hard. And obviously I was one of those people too 3-4 years ago. So I understand where they're coming from, and those reps are important to them, and just need to be there and support them throughout that whole way.
When we caught up with you at the beginning of the season, I believe it was the premiere episode of The Swarm, we talked to you about your academics. You were going for advanced studies. How are the studies going for you in I believe it was the MBA program?
Yes. Yeah, MBA in business analytics right now. Graduated last semester with a degree in sport management, so a little bit different, but it's challenging. Again, it's a different field, but that's what I kind of expected, and that's why I ultimately ended up doing business analytics, just because I just didn't have that background, that skill yet. So it's challenging in a good way, I would say.
And speaking of analytics, I mean, is this something you want to use post BW? You want to go into maybe a sports franchise and be a contributor from an analytics standpoint?
Not necessarily an analytics standpoint, but definitely want to be in the business side of an NFL organization, but just trying to get more marketable for these NFL franchises, just trying to build my background up, just because I didn't have background or skills in Excel and all that analytical stuff. That's ultimately why I chose it.
Cool. And taking a look back, I know this is a few years ago now, but what was the reason that you ended up choosing BW, and how has it lived up to your expectations, or has it exceeded them?
Yeah, I definitely say it exceeded them. Coming from Buffalo, New York, not really knowing what Baldwin Wallace was, some coaches came in and recruited me from St. Joseph's Collegiate Institute in Kenmore, New York, and fell in love with the athletic program, the football program. I always knew I wanted to work in sports, so they had a great sport management program here, and kind of had the same vibe as my high school, just preaching brotherhood and just the support system that they cared to you here at BW just kind of brought me in, and I've loved it ever since.
And what would you say to the next generation of student athletes that's trying to figure out whether BW is the right place for them, from your perspective? Not being a Northeast Ohio guy, having to come a long way from home, you have a unique perspective, but how would you try to tell the next generation what this school can offer them?
Everything's here for you to succeed, from an academic standpoint, from a personal standpoint to athletics. I mean, everyone here wants you to succeed, and the resources you have here are unlimited, so it's up to you if you want to be great or not, but it's here for the taking, pretty much.
We'll end on this note, Vinny. These are the final 3 games that you'll play for the Yellow Jackets coming up, correct?
Yes, sir.
Where's your mind at in terms of that, I won't want to say opportunity, but, this is the twilight of your Yellow Jacket career. Where's your mind at, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Definitely just want to go out with a bang, pretty much. Leave a lasting legacy, just go out in the best way possible. Just go 3-0, 1-0 every week. And just be there for my teammates and just ball out the team.
Well, Vinny, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for everything that you've done over the last 4 years for the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jackets. It's been a joy to watch your career, and I think bright things are ahead for you, not just on the football field, but long after you're retired as a Yellow Jacket athlete.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That's star receiver Vinny Lomeo. We'll be back with more right after this break on the Swarm, a BW football podcast. Now, we're going to turn things over to the other side of the ball with linebacker Devonte Jackson, who is back for the 2024 season after missing all of 2023 with an injury. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Swarm, a BW football podcast. I'm Matt Florjancic, now joined by linebacker for the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jackets, Devonte Jackson. Devonte, thank you very much for joining us on the program. It's great to catch up with you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No doubt about it, man. I appreciate you for having me.
So, Devonte, your season got off to a little bit later start than you would have wanted. You didn't play in week 1. You were recovering from an injury. Let's rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak. Let's get right into it. What were you dealing with coming into the 2024 season?
So coming into the 2024 season, so just to backtrack a bit, 2023, August that is, I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus, all complete tears. And then I want to say probably 3 to 6 months out, I had to get another surgery. And that surgery was manipulation surgery, just to open up my range of motion. So just dealing with that whole process forced me to come back week 2 instead of week 1. So.
How frustrating was that recovery process, not just from the first, but from the second one, knowing that it was going to delay you even more?
To be honest, man, it was very frustrating. I've been playing football all my life since I came out the womb, to be honest. I mean, I've just always loved football, so not being able to be a part of something that I've just been a part of since I was a kid was very frustrating for me. But I was able to hold on and, got a lot more closer with God, and my relationship with Him has just began to continue to strengthen. So I think with that, I was just able to overcome it, although I was very frustrated, but it's all right, though.
So you missed all of 2023, correct?
Yes, I missed the entire 2023 season.
Had you been out any extended period of time before that injury in your whole career?
No, that was actually my, first injury ever, to be honest.
You kind of hit a home run in the wrong kind of way, in the worst way possible with that injury, though, correct?
Yeah,
that's just tough. But when you get that initial diagnosis and you realize you're going to be out for the year, I mean, what was your mindset like, and what did you do to try to keep your mind in the game, even though you couldn't be physically on the field?
That's a great question. So honestly, just running back through some of the memories, I know when the injury happened per se. I was more angry. I didn't really feel anything as it happened. But once I got the initial diagnosis, I'm going to be honest, I was fine for a second. Then once I had to face my team and let them know, I kind of broke down and let them know what the situation was and how I would, force myself to make some type of impact on this season, although I couldn't be on the field. So my main thing was just through my rehab and the whole process, I always have my brothers in the back of my mind. I got to get back because I know they need me and I need them just as much. So getting different feedback and hearing from them while I was going through the process, and then them hearing from me and showing up to games, practices, and lifts as much as I could, I think that really kept my mind through it all.
And from your perspective, what did you see from the Yellow Jackets last year, and how were you able to kind of help them along in terms of just whether it be game tips or just motivationally keeping motivated?
Honestly, I have to tip my hat to my experience playing college football. I was able to lean back on, just some of my knowledge as a player here, especially at Baldwin Wallace. I know a lot of the people we recruit come from out of town or maybe out of state as well. So just trying to be as close as possible with them, making connections with people who are feeling maybe as though I don't feel I'm supposed to be here. I'd rather be back home. Just keeping people close and tight with the team, trying to build more camaraderie just as much as possible, because I knew for the upcoming year I'd have even more freshmen to deal with. So, just being able to be a part of it and just continue to build upon one another, I think that was probably my biggest asset.
Do you have another year of eligibility left because of the injury?
Yes, I do.
Do you plan on using it?
Yes, I do.
My perspective, I can see the passion in your eyes when you talk about football, but how would you describe your passion for the game of football?
Oof. Man, I was just actually talking to Coach about it. I told him if I could, I'd live in the locker room 24/7. I'd live in the weight room because, I really the way that I explain it to people is a couple of things that when they are out of balance, I find myself not in the best mental state. And when I can't play football, that's one of those things that really takes a toll on me and my mental state. So with football, it comes emotion, and I don't know where I get it from. Maybe my father, maybe past relatives, I don't know. But I don't know what it is. But when I see that ball or when I'm on that field or anything about football, something just fires up inside of me, and I I can't stop thinking about it 24/7.
Speaking of being fired up, I bet you were pretty fired up when you took the field for week 2. What was the experience like? And were you kind of nervous going into it because you were waiting for that first like game hit, or were you just like, we're just gonna roll it out there and see how it goes?
I wouldn't say I wasn't nervous at all. I had been thinking about my first game back since I got injured. So honestly, it was just, as Coach always says, like a sniper-like focus. Like I just wanted to make sure, no matter how the cards were played, that I did my job to the fullest extent ever. And one thing that I took away from being injured was you never know when it's your last play. So every play I was out there, I just tried my best to do everything, give the game everything I had. So that was just my main thing. And then honestly, when I first touched the field, hearing the whole crowd, this is at an away game. We were playing Wilmington. So hearing the crowd from BW just, roar and clap me onto the field, it was definitely something special, and I'll definitely remember that for the rest of my life. So. And
your first home game back, what was that experience like?
Man, I don't think it's a better feeling than being in Vinny. Honestly, I haven't been playing a game in Vinny in so long, so when I first touched the field, I definitely shed a few tears, I'm not gonna lie. But, just tears of joy, excitement, and just being grateful for the opportunity to do this again because, like I said, a year ago, I wasn't able to, so.
And taking a look back in your background, before you got to Baldwin Wallace, you were a star football player for John Hay right up the road in Cleveland. How did that hone your passion for and your skill for the game of football, that experience that you had with the Hornets?
Honestly, my time with the Hornets, it just I came from being a utility player, and all that means is I was able to be used on both offense, defense, wherever I was needed. And I think what I took most from that is no matter what any coach has asked of me, I'm willing to do. I'm willing to give my all, no matter where they put me at, no matter what situation we are in. And I think being at John Hay also, we're a good team. There's a great organization over there, but we didn't have the best team. So coming off a couple losing seasons, I feel like that built a certain type of drive in me. And when dealing with adversity, I feel like I'm one of the best people to do it. So that's probably what I'll say about that.
No doubt about that. What was it about that experience playing two ways? When you were looking to play at college, were you always recruited as a linebacker, or did you have designs on doing either or offense or defense?
Yeah, to be honest, coming into here, I was actually recruited as a running back, which was my primary position in high school. So I was definitely recruited as a running back, but as I said before, Coach broke a couple things down to me and let me know how the things would look. So I pretty much made the decision to go to linebacker just based off of the needs of the team and, just my general awareness. So.
What's better, dishing out the hits from a defensive perspective, or being a hard-nosed running back trying to lower the shoulder and blow past somebody trying to make a tackle?
Honestly, I would say it's no better feeling than going and making the contact. Dishing out the hit is always a lot better, but I will say when I'm on this side of the ball, I do begin to miss, running for those touchdowns, going out there catching the ball, just critical things needed on offense. So.
I know we keep oscillating back and forth between your time at BW and your time at John Hay, but looking at what John Hay's been able to do since you moved on from the program, they've started to build themselves up into a nice program that's competing with the heavy hitters in the CMSD. From your perspective, being an alum, what does that feel like?
For me, man, it's been great, especially with my history as a Hornet, man, just going up against different teams and different opponents who are definitely more structured than we may have been due to who knows what. But just seeing that the organization is on the rise, I have a great relationship with Coach D, and more than anything, I'm just proud and happy for him that he was able to do what we always talked about. So.
Yeah, and for a while there, I think the program had gone dormant, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And then was it there for all 4 of your 4 years at John Hay?
Yeah, it was. So my first year, I actually didn't play my freshman year, but the next 3 years, the program was still intact. So
what brought you back to the game?
Honestly, I mean, I played Little League football my freshman year, like my last year, I want to say, and then my 10th grade year, so my sophomore year. I think more so than anything, I just felt like I need to gain more weight because I was pretty small, to be honest. Probably $135 as a freshman. So, just need to gain some weight, gain some confidence, and get after it.
Cool. Well, taking a look at what you have ahead, I mean, it's been 2 tough weeks for the Yellow Jackets, losing to that team in University Heights and then at Marietta on the road. How nice is it going to be to get back home, and what are you thinking the response is going to be from the team when you get that home support from the crowd at Finney Stadium?
Honestly, we're looking past the past 2 weeks. What's in the past is in the past, and we're looking forward to coming here in Finney and bringing home the W. It's just that simple. It's a lot of things that have went on this season, different adversity faced and whatnot, but, as Coach said, this week is all about pride and heart. So we plan to come in here, get the folks something to watch, and come out with a win.
So this is really going to be what shows what the Yellow Jackets, the 2024 edition of the Yellow Jackets is all about, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure, no doubt.
Well, Devonte, thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your story with us. We greatly appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing what the future holds for you in a Yellow Jacket uniform.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
That's linebacker Devonte Jackson of the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jacket defense. More on the Swarm after this. It is good to see Devonte Jackson back on the field making tackles and making plays in coverage for BW's football team on Saturdays. Now turning things over to the head coach, Mr. Jim Hilvert. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Swarm, a BW football podcast. I'm Matt Florjancic, now joined by the head coach of the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jackets, Coach Jim Hilvert. Coach, as always, it's great to talk with you. Thank you for taking the time.
Matt, it's good to talk to you, buddy. I appreciate you having me on again.
So it's been a couple of weeks since we were able to sit down, Coach. Rough stretch for you on the schedule. I think you kind of knew that going in, that these would be 2 tough opponents in John Carroll and Marietta. Not the results you wanted, but what did you learn about your team over the last couple of weeks?
First of all, I'll say this. The first game against Heights, I thought we played for the first and second quarter might have been some of the best football since I've been here at BW. We played really, really lights out. I thought they got the momentum in the third quarter, and then we battled back in the fourth. And a play here, a play there didn't go our way. A call here, call there didn't go our way. But things like that happen, and it was a great football game. End up on the short end of the stick, but I thought our kids showed how good this team can be. And obviously, it was a very tough loss. Obviously, being the last game of the Rock and playing those guys, but I think that kind of hurt us going into this week. I thought it was a kind of a hangover. I know our kids were, they were devastated from obviously how tough that loss was, and we never kind of rebounded from that. And that kind of carried over into this week. And when you go on the road playing a team like Marietta, that can happen. And our guys carried that over. I know we had a great team meeting today. I think our guys are ready to go through the home stretch with these next 3 games with win November. That's kind of our motto, the next 3 games, 2 of them being at home. And we play a tough Muskie team. But I think our kids learned a lot about themselves over the last 2 weeks, and I think they're ready now to move on and see hopefully reach our full potential these next 3 weeks of the season.
When you're leading a team, and you have a tough rivalry loss, just how hard is it to get them refocused? I mean, does it really just depend on the group in terms of how they respond?
Yeah, and it's funny how things fall, and it has been like some of the tough losses we've had against those guys, and obviously Mount Union had been at the end of the year. It's been that last game. And so I've never really been able to see how they would react because it's happened to fall the last game. And this happens to fall in the middle of the year. And it's that last year, that last go at it. And our guys played so hard, laid it out there for each other. And I was proud of them. I told them that after the game. I'm like, hey, you laid it on the line. I mean, you guys played well. We just happened to end up on the short end of the stick. And for us, I say, we needed to be able to move on. And I knew the next week you could tell, obviously, our guys, just a standpoint of bringing the juice and stuff like that, they were still hanging on to that loss. And I think that obviously carried into this week. And, it was disappointing. I know our guys were disappointed. We all were disappointed. But it's time for us to move on. And I think our guys are ready to do that and finish on a high note.
How nice is it to have a couple of home games after those tough back-to-back road losses.
It definitely is. It's definitely to be able to come back home, to play in front of our fans. I think it's a huge deal to get back on the right track playing against actually 3 good opponents, starting with Muskie. And, our guys, because we do, I told our guys, I said, we have a good football team. We just happen to be on, the short end of the stick in a rivalry game and didn't come out ready to play the next game. And now it's time to learn from it and get better from it.
This week you get Muskingum. The following week you get Senior Day against ONU. But looking back one more time at that Marietta game, not a lot in terms of positive statistics-wise, but one thing that jumped out to me is you found you had a little bit more depth at the running back position than maybe people gave you credit for going in.
Yeah, I thought Khalees Beeman, I was proud of our guys, how we kind of finished that last drive and finished the game, obviously, by scoring with Khalees being obviously a workload, did a really good job. He's worked extremely hard to put himself in this position. He did a really good job for us. And Xavier Bolson, obviously another guy. There's guys in that group at the end, finish group, did some good stuff. But for us, I think that today I thought was a good day for us, and we took a huge step in the right direction just from our mental aspect of working out and getting obviously team meeting and stuff like that to get ready for Muskie this week.
So it's still early in the work week for you, but what have you seen from the Muskies on tape?
They're very talented in the skill positions. They're quarterback, and they have number 9 and number 3 and number 16. They all bring something different to the table, are good players. And their wide receiver core, number 6 and number 1, are good players. Gannon Unger, their tight end's a good player, so they like to get the ball out in space and let them make plays. You got to be prepared for all the trick plays they throw at you because they throw a lot of trick plays at you. But they have a lot of different weapons for you, and you got to be on your toes. You got to be ready to play. And obviously defensively, they have gotten better and better. Obviously, during the year, we got to be able to get back on track. We got to make sure we take care of the football. We got to be able to run the football, get the ball to our playmakers like we have in the past games and stuff like that. Let them make plays, and defensively create turnovers and get the ball to our offense.
From the multiple quarterback standpoint, this won't be the first time you've seen multiple quarterbacks in a game. Otterbein comes to mind where they threw 3 guys at you. Every time somebody committed a turnover, they were pulled and the next guy went in. I mean, how difficult from your perspective is it as a defensive coach to have to prepare for the multiple quarterback look?
I think number 9 and 3 are very similar because they like to move. They like to move around and stuff like that. So we got to be ready for all that. Like to make plays with their feet. 16's more of a pocket passer, but I think having those 2 guys that are 1 and 2, I think our guys will be ready for that. We got to really do a good job of obviously making them one-dimensional and taking away, his 2 favorite targets, 1 and 6.
Yeah. Individually, we've heard earlier from Vinny Lomeo and Devonte Jackson, and I want to get your comments on both of them. We'll start with Vontae from a defensive perspective, seeing as how you're so heavily involved in the defense. I mean, what does a guy like Vontae do in the middle of that defense for you?
Yeah, Devonte Jackson, obviously, first of all, he's a great kid. I've enjoyed coaching over the years. I'm really happy and proud of him how he's come back from an injury. Obviously, that was a tough injury last year. And now he's kind of put him in a spot of he's gotten him a lot. He's getting more and more reps. You can tell he's feeling more and more comfortable being on the football field. And I'm really happy for him, Had a tough injury, and it's always tough to get back on the field and get back in the middle of all that stuff, chaos of running and hitting and doing all that stuff. And he's done a really good job of that. You can tell he's getting better with more reps he's getting, which I'm very, very happy for him. He's a leader of his team. I know our guys look up to him. He's very positive, which I think is another huge thing. Keeps his head about himself, which I think is cool. For example, the last 2 weeks he's been very, very positive with our guys. And Vinny Lomeo is another great kid. I mean, 2 just great people. Another guy who's a very positive guy with our offensive side of the ball. He's had a really good year this year. Mr. Reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at we'll talk about the Heights game. He caught 3 passes. I think it was 4th down. That led to first downs on that drive. Like he did one of those guys, just one of those guys you can count on being in the right spot. Has very good hands, and I know he loves both guys love being part of the BW football program. They're just guys that represent what Yellow Jacket Nation's all about.
When you take a look at each guy from their position group standpoint, it seems like they both mean the same thing to their different position groups. Obviously, Vontae in the linebacker room and then Vinny in the wide receiver room. Both groups are relatively experienced for you, but from a leadership standpoint, they really have been tone setters in their respective rooms.
Man, there's no doubt. Both guys are very similar in that way. Quiet, I shouldn't say quiet, but quiet leaders, go about their business, lead by example, very, very positive, very steady, very consistent. And everybody talks about consistency leading to greatness. You got to be consistent all the time. And those guys are very consistent and do the right thing when you're not looking. Just those type of they're those type of young men that you want part of your program.
From your side of things, from your viewpoint, I mean, just how invaluable is it to have that kind of level of trust in your players that they're going to do the right thing? Like you said, characters develop when nobody's watching.
Both, obviously, those guys are guys like that. When I was saying this earlier, I coach a great group of young men. They do. We got great guys. I talked to them today. I love the 2024 football team, and like you said, we're going through a tough patch. But life's hard. Football's hard. Football's meant to be for tough people. So you've got to be tough-minded. You've got to be able to overcome this, have a great week of practice, and be ready to play the Muskies.
Well, Coach, thank you very much for taking the time. I look forward to seeing what happens on Saturday. I look forward to talking to you next week after you get back in the win column.
Matt, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
That's head coach Jim Hilvert of the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jackets. We'll be back on the Swarm right after this break. Our thanks go out once more to head coach Jim Hilvert for taking the time and joining us on this week's program. Taking a look at the weekend ahead, the women's swimming and diving team will compete against Ohio Wesleyan with the first events at 1 p.m. in the BW Natatorium. The women's wrestling team will compete in their first ever open tournament when they travel to Tiffin, Ohio, and at Tiffin University to compete in the Dragons Open, with the first matches slated for 10 a.m. The men's and women's bowling teams will be in action at the Muskie Mash in Coshocton, Ohio. The first throws will commence down the lanes at 10 a.m. Then the women's cross-country team and the men's cross-country team will compete in the Ohio Athletic Conference Championships hosted by Heidelberg University. The events will get underway with the women at 11 a.m. and the men at 12 in Findlay, Ohio. The women's soccer team will be at Muskingum in New Concord with kickoff at 1 p.m., while the women's volleyball team will also be down at Muskingum, first serve at 1 p.m. The BW football team will host the Fighting Muskies of Muskingum University at 1 p.m. in the penultimate home game of the regular season. They have one more home game coming up on November 9th. The men's swimming and diving team will compete against ONU in Berea at 1 p.m. And then the men's soccer team will bring to a close the Saturday of action when they host Muskingum University at 7 p.m. on the Trestle Field turf. And that brings us to the end of another edition of the Swarm, a BW football podcast. Thanks again to my guests, head coach Jim Hilvert, wide receiver Vinny Lomeo, and star linebacker Devonte Jackson. Good luck to all of the teams, both fall and winter sports teams that will be in competition this weekend representing the brown and gold. We look forward to celebrating your victories with you. For everyone here at Baldwin Wallace University, my name is Matt Florjancic, saying make today better than yesterday and make tomorrow better than today. And as always, remember, go Jackets!